Hello everybody and welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring the lethal ladies of the dance floor, the Mikanko. So Mikanko is an archetype often used as a going second deck, that's what this build will be, that is focused around the use of equip spells to gain benefits for yourself and to take things away from the opponents. If that sounds like something you might find fun, then let's begin. So first off, we've got our three basic Mikankos. All of them share some attributes in that they are level 3 monsters with 0 attack, 0 defense, and you cannot take any battle damage from battles involving them. However, all of them get powered up if they have an equip spell on them. So for any of them that has an equip spell, instead of taking no battle damage, they reflect all battle damage at the opponent, and they cannot be destroyed by battle. So that makes them a lot more dangerous. There's a reason that cards are sometimes called a Mikanko or a Mikanko-like, if they reflect damage and just can't die in combat. Mikanko is just a whole archetype of that kind of card. And then each of them has a different effect that activates when they have an equipped spell in addition to that shared one. So Hare here, when she becomes equipped with a spell, allows you to search for a Mikanko equipped spell and add it to your hand. Quite useful for just searching whatever you actually need. Nini, when she is equipped with an equipped spell, allows you to, during your opponent's turn, mind control one of their monsters and bring it to your side until the end of their turn as a quick effect. So she is, sometimes decks won't play her if they're going second, but I find her useful just in case you're forced to go first because she is one of the only ones with an actual disruption attached. Then we have the best Mikanko, Huli. Huli, when she is equipped with anything, makes it so all of your Mikanko cards, not just monsters, including your own equipped spells, are untargetable. And she also, when she becomes equipped, allows you to search a Mikanko trap. So the trap is great for going first, and the protection is great either way because it just makes all of your stuff untargetable, and your guys are already indestructible in combat, and we even add another layer of protection we'll talk about in a second. So Huli is really, really good, and often the first one you're trying to get on the field just to protect the rest of your plays. So then we have our ritual/searcher Rhoda thing. So Ohime, by default, cannot be destroyed by battle and reflects damage to the opponent. You don't have to have an equip on her for that. And you can reveal her in hand to search any Mikanko card, which is so useful, just being able to grab anything in the entire archetype, especially as a going second deck when the opponent's already got their disruptions up. Grabbing exactly what you need and forcing a response to the activation is really good. So you grab anything and then you discard a card, which is actually kind of upside because we have a couple of ways to bring things back from the graveyard. And then once she's actually on the field, she can quick effect equip an equip spell from your graveyard to any monster on the field. So that means your negative ones can go on the opponents on their turn, or your positive ones can go onto your guys on your turn. Just a really solid Swiss Army knife of a card. And then we've got the way that we're actually summoning Ohime. So while Mikanko does have a ritual spell, it's not great. It's not the worst card in the world, and you could play one copy, but it's not amazing. Much better is great Mikanko's Ceremony. So Ceremony is a quick effect that allows you to special summon any Mikanko from your hand, ignoring summoning conditions. That means you can grab Ohime, but because she was improperly summoned, you can't resurrect her from the graveyard if she goes there at some point. Still, downside is very little compared to how good the effect is. But that card returns to hand on the opponent's end phase. That means she sticks around until the opponent's end phase to act as a wall, but then she jumps back so that you can still use her as a searcher again on your next turn, which is great. And that's not even where this card ends. You can banish this card from graveyard to send a Mikanko card from deck to graveyard. So that is the other part of our little graveyard combo where we need 2 parts in there to resurrect something fully equipped and ready to go. As for equip spells, our first is Mikanko Water Arabesque. So this can be equipped to either your monsters or the opponent's monsters, and that monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, and you can activate it to special summon a Mikanko from your hand or deck with a different name from the equipped monster, and bounce the equipped monster back to hand. So you can use this on the opponent's cards to remove threats, to allow you to close out the game, or you can use this on your cards to return stuff to hand to reuse it again, or in case the opponent doesn't have anything on board yet, say if you're going first, you can use this to flip out into whichever of the Mikankos you need, and most of the time you want Huli. Next up, we've got Mayawashidori. So Mayawashidori is normally what you're sending off of Great Mikanko Ceremony to the graveyard, because in addition to the effect that most of the Mikanko equip spells have to prevent the monster from being destroyed by card effects, you can use this in the graveyard to reborn a Mikanko from the graveyard, and then equip this spell straight to it. So that's kind of, you're trying to discard one part of this combo to Ohime and send the other off of Ceremony, and then you just get a fully equipped, ready to go Mikanko on the board. And that's not even all it does, because it makes it so if any of your Mikankos battle while this card's on the field, you can target a card and return it to hand. So that makes it a little bit of a disruption if you're doing this on turn 1, but it also just helps you remove problematic pieces when you're going in for the actual kill. Next up is Mikanko Fire Dance. So Fire Dance is a one-of where we grab this if the opponent's kind of trying to make it hard for us to end the game, because it can special summon a Mikanko from hand or graveyard, equip it with this card, and then you can special summon a monster from the opponent's graveyard to their field and negate its effects. It also shares the effect that whatever is equipped cannot be destroyed. That is the other layer of protection I was talking about. All of the equip spells for Mikankos that we want to put on our own monsters protect them from card destruction. That means with a fully active Huli, none of your stuff can be destroyed in battle, targeted, or destroyed by card effects, making all of your guys into towers. It's so good. But specifically Fire Dance is... Mikanko have a bit of a weakness where all of their stuff is 0 attack, so you are focused on reflecting damage at the opponent. So a savvy opponent might understand that if they literally put no damage on the board, Mikanko has trouble actually defeating them. So Fire Dance is here to forcibly resurrect a card onto their field so that you can put damage in. It's also just a great extender because it special summons from hand or graveyard. Then we've got Reflection Rondo. Reflection Rondo equips only to an opponent's monster and makes you take control of it as long as you have a Mikanko on field, and it negates any of its effects. If this leaves the field, the card gets sent, so they can't destroy this, they just have to get rid of your Mikankos to get their card back, which is very difficult to do. And then we've got a couple of traps for going first. We've got Spirit Walk. Spirit Walk's big effect is that you can target an opponent's monster and equip it to one of your Mikankos. And then if a ritual is on the field, you can do a bunch of damage to them. You can also banish this to special summon something that was banished or in your hand, so just a little bit of recursion there. We have one of Mikanko Rivalry. The whole point of Rivalry is it allows you to equip an opponent's monster with an equip from your deck on their turn. So we're most often going to use Reflection Rondo, which allows us to just take their card, but we've got a couple other little tricks we can do with Rivalry as well. And if an equip is sent to the graveyard, you can banish this to add an equip from graveyard to hand, just, again, more follow-up. We also play a small Dogmatica package in the form of Maximus and 3 Servants. The idea is that Servant can send a card to graveyard from extra deck. We do not use our extra deck very much. We have very few cards in there we actually want to use. So Servant lets us send something to search the Maximus. That's normally going to be a Garura to draw a card. Maximus can then banish the Garura to special summon himself, and he lets us send 2 more from the extra deck to the graveyard. Normally those are going to be board breakers. So this whole line is kind of a must-answer threat for the opponent because you get a card draw and 2 board breakers, or 3 board breakers total, or like a protection and 2 and a draw, or what have you. Just, it's a huge toolbox that the opponent has to stop. But the downside is that it does lock us out of the extra deck for the rest of the turn. That's okay, we aren't too worried about that. After that package, we just have some utility equips that we use. So Axe of Fools gives the equipped monster 1000 attack, which makes our Mikankos more lethal, but it also negates their effects. So we always put this on an opponent's card, give that card another 1000 damage, which is more damage our Mikankos do to them, negate all of their effects. Again, just another must-answer threat. This thing hits the field, and if the opponent has a negate, they either use their negate or they lose it. It also does a little bit of damage on standby phase, which can be relevant because this deck can sometimes struggle to actually find lethal, so 500 damage maybe is just exactly what you need. Then we play a 1 of Double-Edged Sword. Double-Edged Sword allows OTKs incredibly easily, and honestly you could probably play 2 of these, but it is searchable, so I wouldn't go overboard and play the full play set. But you can only control 1 of these, and the equipped monster gains 2000 attack, and both players take any battle damage from attacks involving the equipped monster. So how this actually works is you have a fully online Mikanko with an equip spell on it, then you equip this to an opponent's monster. Even if that opponent's monster has 0 attack, this gives it 2000 attack. So then you can swing with your online Mikanko, they take 2000 damage from the base Reflect. And then the double-edged sword makes you take the 2000 damage, but that counts as battle damage involving a Mikanko, so it is then reflected at the opponent still anyways. So they end up taking 4000 damage from you attacking a 2000 attack monster. Now, if they happen to have something with 2000 attack, and you equip this, suddenly that has 4000, you attack, they take the full 8, and they just die on the spot. Super, super important card for just OTKing opponents on the going second axis. And we're accessing all of these equip spells through Hidden Armory. So Hidden Armory sends the top card of your deck to the graveyard and then allows you to add an equip spell from deck or graveyard to hand. So you can never get rid of what you're trying to search for, you can just pull it back from the graveyard. And sometimes your graveyard hit's actually a good thing, you want some of your Mikanko cards in the graveyard. But it does prevent you from normal summoning the turn you activate this card, but it does not have a once per turn. So if you open 2 Hidden Armories, you can search like an Axe of Fools and a Double-Edged Sword, or a Double-Edged Sword and a Water Arabesque, or what have you. This card is quite possibly the best card in the deck, and I'm always happy to see 2 or even 3 of them in an opening hand. We play a 2 of Preparation of Rites because our Ohime is our starter, and this just acts as 2 extra copies of Ohime, allows you to search her to hand, and then you can use her effect and go from there. You can play the 3, but in a 40 card version of Mikanko, I find that 3 often ends up with me having 2, and there's nothing else to do with this card outside of grabbing Ohime, so having 2 copies of Ohime or Prep is redundant and kind of just clutters up your hand, so I find 5 is pretty good. Then we've got our going second package. So we play 2 Lava Golems because this allows us to neutralize opponents' threats while keeping a big body on the field. We play 2 Kaijus. We just play the biggest Kaijus for the most attack to kill the opponent most easily. Same thing, neutralizes a single threat and then just allows us to OTK them. We play a 2 of Lightning Storm and 1 of Feather Duster. These are almost always used to clear back row. This deck kind of struggles against back row. We don't have a good way to just destroy those. While we have Kaijus and Lava Golems and we want monsters on their field, we're really good against monsters. We can't do crap against traps. So we play just this suite. You can even play MSTs just as additional ways to destroy things, and I will do that in like a 60 card build, but this is a like tight and concise build, so I don't play any MSTs. Then we've got 1 Triple Tactics Thrust and 2 Triple Tactics Talent. The whole idea here is that Talent allows us to draw cards or take the opponent's cards or check to make sure the coast is clear. I've done that a number of times where I have lethal on board. I just make sure they don't have anything in hand that can mess it up, and then we go for the kill. The Thrust is much more interesting because we have so many spells and they're so useful in so many situations that being able to grab whichever one we want is incredible. You could play like 2 Thrusts, probably be right, but again, we want this deck like tight and consistent, so like play 3 of these guys, choose which one you want the 2 of. Like you could play 1 Talent, 2 Thrust, and that'd be perfectly acceptable. Then for our extra deck, so the only cards we're actually playing from our extra deck are these first 5. So Almirage is useless, but we can link into it off of a 0 attack monster, and then we can link off Almirage into Gardna. So the idea there is that Gardna has a couple of effects that are kind of useful, makes you take no damage, but that's not really the purpose. The purpose is that that little combo takes one of our Mikankos, or one of our sideboardable cards, and turns it into a monster from the extra deck in the graveyard in the form of Almirage. That allows us to, if Maximus is already in hand, we can then banish the Almirage to summon Maximus without the use of Nadir's Servant. So that's kind of the use of these two guys. Then we've got Ashura King. So Ashura King is for opponents that are trying to play hard to get. Ashura King basically reads, deal 7,500 damage to the opponent on an empty board. And then it also has a monster negate. You can detach a material, negate a monster effect. So if the opponent is trying to keep everything off of their board so we can't kill them, we take any three of our Mikankos, go into Ashura King, do 7,500, and force the issue. If we happen to throw an Axe of Fools on them, then that's lethal. Like, just any one tick from Axe of Fools, or any other little bit of damage that we can do, is lethal after an Ashura King gets in. And then to use with Ashura King, we have Downerd Magician for an extra material that we can slap on top of it, and then Zeus as just, hey, we've attacked, let's get some disruption on board for the opponent's next turn. Great. And then the entire rest of our extra deck is stuff that we want to be sending off of Maximus or Ultimate Slayer, which is in the sideboard. You can throw it in the main deck. I'll talk about that in a second. So Herald of the Arclight is a ritual searcher that allows us to search for Ohime, put it in hand. When Pegasus Adagnister is an extra disruption that you can put in the graveyard when you're doing all of your stuff, so that when it goes to the opponent's turn, if they destroy a card on your field, Adagnister then spins one of their cards back into the deck. Malong is a targeting return to hand, which is pretty useful for dealing with extra deck stuff. Garuru lets us draw a card when it gets sent to the graveyard. Natis lets us target and destroy any card on the field when it gets sent to the graveyard. The fossils allow us to destroy a spell or monster respectively by banishing this from the graveyard. So the point of these is that if the opponent doesn't have anything on the field already, but you're sending things for next turn, you can send these ahead of time. You can also, if you've already used Natis, you can then use these guys as replacements for Natis. And then, so our side deck's not an actual side deck. This is just options I wanted to give you guys for this deck if you wanted to, kind of customize and make it your own. So the third Lava Golem's a good call. The reason I only play two is that some decks only put one body on the field, at which point Lava Golem's completely useless and you want Kaijus. Same thing with the Kaijus. They're really good, but against any deck that is putting more than one body on the field during their end board, then you want the Lava Golems instead. So I kind of find like a 2-2 split to be better. You could run even like more of them. There are plenty of 60 card builds of Mikankos, or even, 50 or anything in between there. The deck's pretty consistent, but I run 40 so that I see Hidden Armory as much as possible. So I'd be taking out, maybe like an Axe of Fools for another one of these guys if you wanted to. Then we can play, and I would suggest these as actual sideboard cards, a Gen and Ken package. So Gen and Ken are incredible going first, especially in this deck. The idea is you normal summon Gen, activate Gen. Gen summons Ken to the opponent's field. What that does is, in addition to giving them a body we can work with, it makes it so Ken lets you, as the Gen controller, draw 2 cards and discard 1. Incredible value. But it also turns on your Triple Tactics Talents and Triple Tactics Thrust, because the opponent now has a monster that has activated an effect on their field. It also then lets you Kaiju them, so just these guys going first are incredible, and please do run a package of at least 3 Gen and 1 Ken. Sometimes you can run 2 Kens, but he's not nearly as useful as Gen is to actually draw. But the idea is that going first, these guys let you do going second things. Gen is also the only other monster that we can use for Almirage into Gardena, so just keep that in mind. And then lastly, Ultimate Slayer. So because we do have this robust extra deck sending stuff to the graveyard package, you can play Ultimate Slayer. Again, it's a really good card. I'm not playing it because we already deal with monsters very easily. And so, being able to send a Natis to the graveyard doesn't kind of do enough, in my opinion. But if you find that back row isn't really an issue in your meta, and you want to take out these guys just to, find more ways to deal with monsters and other weird things, Ultimate Slayer's your girl. And that's going to be it for the deck profile. I know it's kind of a little bit weird to visualize what this deck does just from reading the cards. So that's why I have a lot of gameplay segments and like combos in this video so that you can actually get a feel for what you're trying to do. Let's get into those now. Alright guys, so this is going to be the only thing I consider an actual one-card combo in this deck, and while it doesn't necessarily put a ridiculous board on the field, it does put some stuff. It makes our opponent's life difficult, and it leaves us follow-up for next turn. So let's go ahead. Activate Nadir Servant, sending Aurora to draw a card, and searching Maximus. Maximus banishes and then sends 2 from the extra deck. That's going to be Pegasus Adignaster for another disruption, and the Ritual Searcher to get our Ohime. Ohime is going to ditch our earlier extra card that we drew to grab Arabesque, equip Arabesque to our Maximus, flip Maximus out into a Hewley to search a trap, then we can set the trap, and what do we have here? So we have 1 disruption in the form of Spirit Walk, we have a very difficult to out tower in the form of Hewley, and then in our graveyard we have Adignister, which makes it so if any of our cards are destroyed, not that Hewley can be destroyed, but any of our back row, for example, we can spin one of the opponent's cards back into the extra deck. So that gives us 2 disruptions, a tower, and follow-up for next time. Cool? Cool. Alright, so now I'm going to show you Ohime's best 1.5 card combo. This can be done with basically any other Mikanko along with the Ohime, but I think Hare is the best version of it because it just gets you the most on board. So let's go ahead and start. So first thing, Ohime is going to search Ceremony and pitch the Hare to the graveyard, then we're going to activate Ceremony to summon Ohime and then banish the Ceremony to send Mayawashidori, which can reborn Hare and equip itself. Hare searches us Arabesque, which we can use on the Ohime, to flip out into Hewley to search up an actual disruption, set that, and we have follow-up for next turn. So what this actually gives us is 1 disruption in the form of Mikanko Spirit Walk, and then we have 2 pretty difficult to out towers on board that the opponent has to fight their way through, and then we also have Mayawashidori's battle protection bounce effect thing in case someone does mess up and tries to attack into one of our guys, but I don't rely on that. I consider this 2 towers on the board and 1 disruption with follow-up for next turn. Cool. Cool. Alright guys, so this one's not going to be just an exact combo guide for you to replicate, but more so showing just how easy it can be for us to knock the opponent out in 1 turn depending on what hand we get, even through disruption. So, here we go. Our opponent's set up a Salamangreat board. It's not a particularly impressive one, but they've got some stuff going on. That said, we get through the disruption, get a Hewley on board, and what do you know, we have Double-Edged Sword, which could also be another copy of Hidden Armory in this situation to get a Double-Edged Sword. Equip it to the Stalio, we only need 1 Mikanko, and they are down. So, you can see we still have 4 cards in hand. If you imagine that the deck is trying to use those extra cards that we would have to fight through even more disruption, you kind of should understand generally what we're trying to do here. Just put some stuff on board, find 8,000 points of damage. That's all we need to do. Cool? Cool. And we're back with closing thoughts on our Mikanko deck. So, as you can see, this deck is pretty proficient at 1-turn killing opponents. It is the first going second deck that I have covered on this channel. It probably won't be the last. They're not my favorite, but I do have a particular affinity for Mikanko. Just the towers and the fact that you're using traps, the fact that they use equip spells so robustly when that's not really a thing we're doing in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like very, very few. There's Armored XZs that'll do some stuff with equips, but like it's kind of crazy to me because there's such good equip spells. Like Axe of Fools is just straight up imperm that you can only use on your turn, basically. Which I guess is why it doesn't see that much play. But in this deck it's so good because that attack boost is actually something we want. And same goes for all of our equip spells. There's also even like more options that you can be playing in this deck. So the fact that it plays on an access that is so different from most decks nowadays is really fun to me. We're not doing some like crazy long combo that ends in an unbreakable board. We're just trying to put a couple ladies on the board and have them swing. That's all we gotta do to win. And that's like refreshing sometimes when you get tired of like combo, everyone's trying to go first. Even like Tenpai as a going second deck goes through a long intricate combo to get to the actual like kill. Mikanko does not do that. Mikanko is just all toolbox, and that's something I really like. I love toolbox decks back when I played Magic, and this kind of gives the same feeling. It's the only deck with that feeling that I've found in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I really like that. Of course, though, for all of the OTK lethal potential toolbox usage, the deck does have some weaknesses. One, even playing things like Ashura King and the traps, we don't like to go first. The deck can, and there are actually going first builds of Mikanko that are focused on put a tower out, drop a couple of traps, pass, and like they can win. It's not impossible, but we kind of have to choose which one we want to do. And in the going second build, which I feel is the better build, you don't get very much going first. You know, best case scenario, you end up with like Huli, Nini, and one trap most of the time. And, you know, that's 2 disruptions and a tower and a couple of towers. That's something. It's not nothing, but most decks nowadays can fight through that. The other weakness is just like people not doing things. If we're playing against something like Labyrinth, where it's set 5 and pass, the opponent, if they're smart, will wait until they see what we're doing before they start like summoning monsters and everything. And in that situation, well, we got nothing. We cannot kill the opponent without their own monsters. Even with the Ashura King, it's not quite enough. It's just barely not quite enough to swing with the Ashura King 3 times. And that means that the opponent gets an extra turn, and if the opponent goes back to their turn and they've got like 5 cards set, we're having a bad time. And so, like I mentioned, we're really weak to back row decks. That's why we play these guys, because it kind of forces the issue. They see us drop a Lightning Storm, and they have to flip their Welcome Labyrinths, and by flipping their Welcome Labyrinths, they give us a target for our Mikankos. Our other weakness is the fact that even going second, we start with 6 cards in hand. Even if every card in hand is killer and demands an answer, if an opponent puts up a board with, 8 to 10 disruptions, we often just do not have the resources to fight through that. We're not drawing extra cards and getting extra resources as we're doing things necessarily. So fighting through, 7 disruptions is normally the best we can do. So there is a distinct weakness in this deck to just ridiculous end boards. To that end, I have played like Nibiru's and Drolls in this deck, which can be great. Like, those are great cards. But you see, what we're already working with is 30 pieces of engine. We only have 10 slots for non-engine. I've chosen to focus on removing back row rather than trying to disrupt an opponent's combo on their turn. But you could, in theory, play like less Lightning Storms. You could play less of the Tactics, which does weaken your going first with Gen and Ken, but you can do that. You can run like a 50 card build, but you start to reduce the likelihood of you seeing things like Hidden Armory and your Ohime if you do that. There's give and take. There's a lot of theory that goes into a Mikanko deck, and you're always, it feels like, going to be weak against something. This particular build is weak against just ridiculous end boards. But, Lava Golem and Kaijus and Lightning Storms and stuff, sometimes these can take out multiple cards and make even like the craziest 10 disruption end board vulnerable to what we're trying to do. And so that's going to be it for our Mikanko guide. I hope you guys liked it, and thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Okay, cool. Bye.